up like half of the room. Okay. Well, Elizabeth is a resident, and we are so grateful because she is so willing to just help the whole community with her vast knowledge. I'm so excited to listen in on this myself, and I hope you guys are as well, whether you know Elizabeth or not. All right, so here we go. Join me in welcoming Elizabeth Montemorano.
I see many familiar faces, some not so much, but that's all right. Happy to have you here. So I wanted to first introduce myself. I know Ash already has, but I am a pharmacist, and I'm also a certified health coach. I was licensed in New York as a pharmacist. I am not licensed in Nevada, and I don't intend to change that. So I'm certified through Villanova School of Nursing as a health coach. And over the years, you can see I've put a couple of things up here. This is where I started. I started counting pills.
Could you talk closer to the mic, please?
Is that better?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. Very good. I started here dispensing pills, and you know, we're all in the same age group. So back in the day, there weren't so many that we could dispense as there are today. But over the years, I discovered that what we were really doing, sadly, our healthcare system was not at all healthcare. It's really sick care. And all we really did was treat disease states. We weren't doing anything to help people prevent them. We weren't helping them to learn how to eat, helping them to understand what exercise is appropriate, what exercise isn't appropriate, you know, patterns of sleep, patterns of hydration, all different types of things that are critical. I mean, hydration alone here, just in this climate, is critical. So there's a lot of things that, you know, we can help you to understand better, and at the end I'll show you the website. And so this was where I found myself, understanding that a lot of these disease states that we were doing this were preventable, and some of them even reversible. So not all of them, and sometimes all you can do is improve your quality of life and still learn to live with whatever you've got going on. But if we can make it better, that's the objective, is to try and get there. So I'm happy to say now that I'm no longer in sick care, I'm working in health care, finally. So as a pharmacist, that makes me very happy. So I know many of you have asked, what is glycemic index, what does it matter? Well, it matters a lot, and you don't need to be diabetic for this to matter, all right? Because that's part of the pathway to becoming a diabetic, is not understanding this. It's the measure of how quickly blood sugars rise after eating different foods. Now that's terribly important for a diabetic, particularly those that are on insulin. For the rest of us, it's helpful, if nothing else. It can help to reduce the inflammation in our bodies, help us to have a clearer mind, sleep better, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So glycemic index, really when it comes right down to it, it is the concept, idea, or science behind the idea that every single carbohydrate that passes by your teeth has to be converted to glucose in order for your body to use it. And this glycemic index is really a number that helps us to understand how close that food is to glucose. And that matters for a diabetic because can you imagine, you're a type 1. We raised a type 1 son, we have 2 type 1 grandsons. You're a type 1, you know what you've eaten, you know how many carbs are in it, you don't know how fast it's going to be converted to sugar, right? So you dose on insulin before you know it, you're too low. Now what do? Now you're drinking orange juice, now you're eating candy. It's kind of a bad thing. But glycemic index is important for all of us because even if we are non-diabetic, this is still critical. And it will truly help you to understand how much it improves your health. Now, we're not talking about eliminating carbs. That's absolutely not what we're all about. But we work to help you to better understand how the carbs affect you and what are healthy carbs for you. Some people can tolerate almost anything. Other people are super sensitive and really can't, but they don't understand that it's the sugar that's doing it to them. All right, Americans, what do? We start out with dessert for breakfast, right? I mean, great place to begin your day with a great big giant glass of orange juice and a donut or a bagel or, you know, sugary cereal. This is the American diet. It's not a good place to start. So your day begins here, and before you know it, you're way up here. Your blood sugar's way up here, right? I mean, how many people, when you see them get a glass of orange juice, if you're at a hotel or motel or somewhere, even if you order it out, they don't bring you a 2-ounce juice glass. They bring you an 8-ounce glass. I mean, just right off the bat there, you're in trouble before anything else has happened. So you're ending up way up here with your blood sugar. Now, what's gonna happen? Well, if you still have insulin that you're producing and your body is sensitive to it, you're gonna end up going way down here. Because again, as the glycemic index shifts and changes, some of that's gonna convert right away, some not so much. If it hasn't converted and your body's reacted, you end up with a lower blood sugar. Now what happens? Now you're starving. You don't know why. You're craving everything sweet or everything potato chip looking. And so as you're down in this little part of the sine wave, now you're digging around mid-morning looking for something even before lunch. Let's say you managed to stave that off and you just had for lunch. What do you have for lunch? You don't order burger and fries, or I don't know, what do you know, typically that's what Americans are going to for lunch. So what happens again? Here we go, we're back on the train. And then what happens? Here comes mid-afternoon. This is nap time right here. That's when you're looking to hit the sack because you're exhausted, you're tired, you don't know why. And the next thing you know, mid-afternoon, what can bring you back to life if you can't take a nap? A candy bar and Coke, right? So here we go. And this is the way it happens. It is not your fault. These cravings are not something that you can really stave off unless you get off this crazy train. So I can help you with that. I can help you understand how we're going to get off of that. But first you need to understand this because I'm going to show you on the next slide. This is critical because as this happens, these waves don't get smaller. They get bigger because now you're becoming insulin insensitive. And then your body's going to produce more and more until eventually you're insulin resistant. You got a sustained high blood sugar that your body can't even bring down if it wanted to, and before you know it, your good doc is telling you you've got something called an elevated HbA1c. You scratch your head and go, I don't even know what that is. That is a measure of your blood sugar over the last 90 days. It's an average. So for a type 1, it's relevant, but you know, they go super low, they go super high, they go super low, they go super high. Average that out, it may not look so bad, right? But for a non-type 1, this is a very, very important number because you need to know just how insensitive your body is to insulin. And the higher this stays for a longer period of time, the greater this becomes. And before you know it, you've been diagnosed as pre-diabetic or worse yet, diabetic, type 2. Okay, let's get into glycemic index. Now, I didn't put a chart up of glycemic index other than this little bitty one because all of us have phones and you can all look it up and you can get a whole lot more information that way than me trying to put a chart up right now. But it is, if you look here, you can see French fries 76, wafers 77, apple 36, corn chips 72. So when you look at these things, a high glycemic index is anything over 75 to 77. A lower glycemic index would be in the 55 range, and 35 or below is considered low. So when you're looking at your foods and you're looking at all of these different things here, you can still consume plenty of carbs. You just want to be really mindful of this number right here because that's what's going to whack your blood sugar out. So the glycemic index of different things varies. Generally speaking, the more white it is, the worse it is. So if you're looking at white rice, it's much higher than brown rice. If you're looking at white bread, it's much higher than you know, wheat bread, brown bread, rye bread, any of the other kinds of bread. So the more complex the carbohydrate, the harder it is for your body to break down, the lower the glycemic index is. And that's a number that you really should know. I just need to check the watch, make sure, because I tend to talk fast. It's a number that you really need to know, again, even if you're not a diabetic, because this will help you to better understand how they affect you. As I said, everyone is different. Everyone responds differently to glycemic index. I have people who tell me, my arthritis has never been this good. You know, I haven't felt like this in so I'm not taking a nap in the afternoon anymore. My mind is so much clearer, I don't need so much caffeine. So it just really is going to be a personal thing, whether or not this really, you're super sensitive to it or not. Watch your fruits. Your fruits can be very, very high in glycemic index. You know, I know everyone says, well, you should eat a whole bunch more fruits and vegetables, and you're eating, yeah, but you still gotta watch the sugar. And even the vegetables that we all love so much, the carrots, peas, corn, sweet potatoes, are super high. They are high in glycemic index. So even though they may have a lot of vitamins and minerals and they're really good for you, you gotta watch that number. Most Americans don't have any concept what a serving is either. So when you're looking at the glycemic index on your chart, it'll tell you for what size the serving is. All right, so that's an important factor in that as well. Okay, protein. I have so many people that say to me, well, you know, I went on a high protein diet and I lost weight. Yeah, you will. You cut out any food group and you'll lose weight. That's, you know, that's called starvation. But the problem with too much protein is, well, there's multiple problems, but the biggest one is protection for your kidneys. Your kidneys have to clear the protein, and if you overeat them on protein, your kidneys are going to suffer. Even the doctors that created the keto diet way back in the day really warned about being on their high protein diets for more than 90 days. So if this is something that you've considered or something that your friends are touting, please be aware that cutting or eliminating any macro is a bad idea. So macros are proteins, carbohydrates, and fat, right? We want to balance them in our diet so that you don't cut out anything that you really need. Satiety really is a measure of fullness. How full do you feel? Without protein, you do not feel full. We all know that you can wolf down a pound of pasta and still be hungry, right? But when you consume a real portion of protein, you have a more full feeling because it takes your body longer to break it down. So it's important that you balance your proteins with your carbohydrates, make sure that they're in there. The thermic effect, this feeds into BMR, basal metabolic rate, but the thermic effect is a measure of how long it takes your body to break it down with regard to protein as opposed to carbohydrates. That's a factor in the numbers we'll talk about later on, which is TE, total energy expenditure. So you don't need to necessarily know what that number is. It's going to be factored into the formula, so you don't need to worry about it. Grams per pound. How much is too much? How do I know if I'm getting enough? General rule of thumb. Now this is the body weight that you should be, not necessarily the body weight that you are, but where you want to be. You take that in pounds and you translate it into grams of protein for the day. So if your goal is to weigh 150 pounds, you have 150 grams of protein. So you're looking at 10, 12, 14, 15 ounces of protein through the course of the day. So needless to say, nobody needs to sit down to a 32-ounce ribeye. Just not necessary. Just not. Sorry, I know they smell good, taste good, but it's really an overkill. That's too much protein, and again, that would tax your kidneys. But you need to get enough. If you don't have enough protein, and all of us are in this age range that we're in danger of, is a condition called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is the muscle wasting that happens as we age, every decade of our life, right? So again, this is where fitness comes in and our exercise program to help build the healthy bones that support the musculature and can help to reverse that, which means your calories will stay up there. But grams per pound is important, so you want to kind of figure that out. And again, as you're looking these foods up, you can see how many grams you're looking at for each one of them. And again, you want your healthy fats. So some of these, ooh, I did it. Sorry. Oh, sorry. Let's go back here. No. Oh no. No. There it is. Okay. Grams per pound. So some of these are healthy and some are fatty, right? Salmon is a fatty protein. And then there's no problem with that. But if I was to recommend a salmon or a lean and green kind of a meal for someone and salmon was included, they wouldn't get any additional fat. Now, if you're looking at something like these chicken breasts, you're going to have 2 servings of healthy fats that go along with that. The beef is going to be just 1 serving of healthy fat. So the healthy fats can be butter. We know now that butter is actually good for you. I mean, in everything in moderation, all right? That doesn't mean you put a whole half a pound of it in a baked potato. But they are healthy fats. Olive oil we've known for a long time. We now know that even lard, pork fat, is not bad for you because it's natural. Which ones are? The trans fats, the unnatural fats, the fats that are synthetically created to reduce the price of the stuff in the grocery store. You know, the margarines, no, I remember that stuff in the day. That was awful, wasn't it? Anyway, so healthy fats are something you definitely want to incorporate. Again, thermic effect is important. It takes longer to break fats down. Fats are the most complex of all of our foods. And without them, then you cannot really digest or sustain without them. Those are the macros. Fiber. Fiber is not a macro, but it's an important component. Now, again, fiber, these are all carbohydrates that you're looking at, by the way. If you're not just looking at, you know, veggies aren't nothing. They do have carbohydrates in them. It just takes longer to break down. And these types of things don't completely break down. It depends on the amount of cellulose that's in each and every one of these molecules here. The cellulose doesn't break down, but the rest of it does. And that's the fiber in your diet. If you're getting enough fiber, you'll know. You'll feel good. If you're not getting enough fiber, you're gonna be on laxatives, you're gonna be on stool softeners, you're gonna be on all kinds of different things. When you overdo it, your body will let you know. So don't worry about that. You'll be a visitor to the bathroom. So this is a very important part. And these can be, you know, a healthy meal can be just 3 cups of some sort of lettuce and a chicken breast with some healthy fat, which would be in the form of olive oil and vinegar, right? For a salad dressing, a light salad dressing. So fiber is important as well. Keeps everything moving, but it's also an important nutrient and important component in a healthy diet. One more. There we go. Oh, good, I love this one. Meat versus eat, and it's even moving, Ash. How do you like that? So, meat versus eat. NEAT stands for non-exercise activity thermogenesis. Big, long term for doing stuff you do. Just the stuff you do. Are you out kicking the stones back out to your lawn? Are you vacuuming, emptying the dishwasher, walking the dog? Whatever it is you're doing, it's a non-exercise, something we don't consider to be, I'm gonna put my gym clothes on for, or my swimsuit on for. Non-exercise activity thermogenesis. This is things that, you know, you park a little further away. In Smiths, you don't have a choice. You're gonna park a football field away, and you're gonna walk on all of it. But you know what I'm saying. If you've got parking places out here and you have the opportunity to walk a little bit in this beautiful sunshine and nice weather we're finally having, do it, all right? It could be taking the stairs instead of the elevator for people who are still capable without hurting their knees or their hips. I don't recommend, I'll get into that in a second, don't let me get sidetracked. Eat, exercise activity, thermogenesis. This is intentional exercise. You're going to the gym, you're jumping on the treadmill, you're diving into the pool. No, we don't dive in our pools. Jumping in the pool, whatever you're doing to intentionally get exercise is eat. Now, these also are numbers that will feed into our total energy expenditure, which is important because if you don't know that number, how do you know how many calories you should be taking in the course of the day? That's how you know. Exercise improves insulin sensitivity. Again, you know, if you've been on that sine wave for a while, then we really need to right that wrong. And we do that through exercise. Walking and talking I put up here because it's an important thing. When I coach somebody to help them to lose weight, the first thing I tell them is please don't exercise. Give me a couple of weeks where you don't exercise. And the reason is because most people overestimate what they did and they underestimate their compensation. All right, In-N-Out burger and fries is not the opposite to walking the dog. It doesn't count. It's just not there. So, but most people do that, and so I need them to know what their real caloric intake should be without that factor. Now, if walking is all you can really do, that's fine, but you should be able to talk and walk. If somebody's carrying an extra 80 or more pounds, and they're trying to walk for exercise and they're so out of breath they can't make it to the other side of the parking lot, that's too much. That's too much for them. So if you can talk while you're doing it, then that's considered still within those parameters. So be very careful you don't overestimate. Now, if you've got a watch, smartwatch, or some sort of device that tells you what you can monitor your heart rate on there, and you'll know from that as well. So as we get older, our maximum heart rate drops where we really should be, in other words. So it doesn't mean that your heart rate's going to get lower. No, it needs to stay lower. So you need to, understand that those numbers are all very critical. All right. So some of the things that we know are just not the same math that we learned early on, which was calories in, calories out. How many of you have done that and know that this calories in, calories out thing, the math isn't working? It's just not. I don't know, I can't figure it out, but it's just not working. Well, as we age, again, our sarcopenia kicks in, our muscle mass drops, and a whole bunch of other things. But we also know that a few other things are critical. You need to eat within 60 minutes of when you rise in the morning. Your blood sugar, if you remember the slide with the sine wave, way down at the bottom when you get up in the morning. We don't want it to go way, way up, but we need to bring it up. So we need for you to eat within 60 minutes of rising, and what that does is it takes you out of fasting. It takes you out of starvation mode, if you will. Our bodies were designed to get us through a famine. I mean, we hang on to everything. It's what we were created to do. And so you can't fight that. You have to know how to manage it. You have to understand it and manage it. Eating within 60 minutes of rising will help to reduce that so that you can actually come into a fat burn earlier in the day. Men should eat every 3 hours throughout the course of their waking day, and women every 2.5. For some people, they don't understand that there is a difference there, and it does really matter. That's where the sine wave is going to kick in or kick out. So by putting that extra little bit in there, it's going to keep that sine wave lower so that you're not going with these wild swings. So every 2.5 hours for women, men every 3. When we get done doing the math, you might look at that and go, well, I can have 6 meals a day? Wow. No, I didn't say meals. I said we're going to eat. I didn't necessarily say we're going to belly up to it, big old spread here. We need to balance the proteins with carbs. We talked a little bit about that already, but that's really critical. If you've got in front of you your daily, your meal, one meal that you're really having, and it's going to be, like I said, 3 cups of lettuce and a chicken breast, and you power through the lettuce, but you can't get to the chicken breast, you shouldn't do that. You should do half of it and half of it, or whatever fraction works better for you. But don't just eat one and then come back and eat the other. Again, that thermic effect is what gets screwed up. You need to keep your macros together so that your digestion is more level. And the sine wave is critical. I know it seems kind of fundamental, but it truly is fundamental. Make sure you include healthy fats. If you undereat, you will not lose weight. You'll just go into starvation, and once your body slips into starvation, it's going to hang on to everything. If you go into Pink Box and smell those donuts you're going to put on your mouth, that's what it does. So we don't recommend that. But truly, your olfactory is 80% of what you taste anyway. So remember that. Sometimes just smell it. If you can get past the not eating it after you smell it part. All right, people that love math are going to love this. The rest of you can take a nap. This right here, BMI equals 703 times your weight in pounds divided by your height in inches squared. Don't worry about that. Find the chart online. Google it. You can pull it up, find it in there, and figure it out. If you're 18.5 or less, you're considered underweight. Normal is 18.5 to 24.9. Once you hit 25, you're falling into the overweight, and obese is over 30. I don't even want to terrify you with the number of Americans that fall into the obesity category. It's scary. So this is something that's really critical and very important for our healthcare going forward, because if we could just fix this, the diabetic wave that's taken over America would really come to a standstill. But this is very important that you know what your BMI is. And I can tell you, when my husband went for his physical, found out that he was in 31, 32, and the doctor said, you gotta lose weight, buddy, or I'm putting you on metformin. And that scared him. That scared him enough to have him finally do something. Until then, we just said, well, you have red muscles, you're thick, you're Italian, you're thick, you're meant to be built that way. No, you're not. All right, so how do we figure this out? Your weight in pounds times 11. This is all, you can find this all online. Don't think you got to take a million notes on it. And this will be up on our website as well, so if you want to go back and look at the slides, it'll be on the website. Your weight in pound times 11, that's your basic intake, all right? That's not your total energy expenditure, but it's considered what your baseline is. Now, you take somebody that's small, and let's say they're 110 pounds times 11, that's not a very big number. So it's easy to see how this gets whacked pretty quick. So your total energy expenditure, to figure out what your caloric intake would be to take that number your weight times 11, and then you get to multiply it again, thankfully, by 1.2 if you sustain light exercise through the course of a week, 1.5 if you're moderate, and 1.7 if you're heavy. Now, I don't know very many of us that are 1.7, but you know, if you got a really great week going on, maybe. But you can figure that out pretty quickly, and this is what we do as coaches. We would go sit down with you and help you figure out all these numbers, because the next thing you're going to do is take this number and divide it out over your 6 meals, right? So some of those little meals are only going to maybe be 100 calories, 110 calories. It's not much. You really got to count how many almonds that is before you go forward. And I'm serious, really just 100 calories, but those 100 calories will keep you from going into that sine wave. And that's what's so critical. If you really need to maintain your blood sugar and stay away from diabetes, pre-diabetes, or syndrome X as it's called, that sine wave is really important. So that's your TEE and your BMI. BMI and your TEE gives you your total energy expenditure, so that's your caloric intake. So your healthy lifestyle, this is where it starts. You know, it starts with you losing the weight, if there's weight to be lost. And, you know, I admit sadly that too many of us had weight to be lost. But once you get the weight down, then we can start exercising. But the weight's gotta come off first. Because if you understand how many pounds of pressure it takes to carry that extra weight around, it would terrify you, what it does to your heart, what it does to your lungs, your circulation. It's really puts a load on the body. I mean, can you imagine, even if you're just 20 pounds overweight, would you go into the grocery store, grab a bag of cat food or dog food, throw it over your shoulder and walk through the store? No, you wouldn't. But that's what you're doing if you just even have 20 pounds on. So it's a lot. It makes a big difference when the weight comes off and once you start to feel that way. And I just put a couple of things up here because I like to swim, my husband likes to cycle and swim. And you know, of course, the eating component there is very important, but getting exercise and getting fit after the weight is under control and, you know, bringing it down. It used to pain me terribly, you know, when you see the reruns or programs like Biggest Loser. You know, you have people that are 100 pounds overweight and you're asking them to do squat thrusts. That's ridiculous. I don't know how many of them didn't drop dead right there just from a heart attack because of it. So, you know, we want to make sure that that you're looking at both. It's not, you can't outrun your fork. You know, first of all, we've got to get the dietary portion under control. And then you look at what can I do for fitness. And as you get more and more fit, you can do more and more things. And that's the goal, right? I mean, we've got so many great clubs in this community. We've got so many activities that we could do. But if you're not capable because, you know, you need to have knee replacement or hip replacement or, you know, something along those lines. But how many of us wouldn't need that if the weight came off, if we could get exercise in and healthy before that became an issue? That's really the goal, is to keep you away from the joint replacement option of everything. Or worse yet, the bariatric surgery. Definitely not. There's definitely no reason for that. We can absolutely figure out how to get you there. So anyway, that's I want to leave plenty of time for review. We'll do questions. This is our website, rxhealthyhabits. Gmail is my email. rxhealthyhabits.com. As I said, this will all be up. We've got over 250 videos, 60 blogs. There's all kinds of information on all different types of stuff. Joe likes to do all kinds of exercise things. And I've done some cooking, he's done some cooking. You know, you'll see my dog. I love doing things with the dog. The dog has to be in everything. As soon as he sees the camera come up, the dog jumps on my lap. I don't know why. But, so there's a load of information up there. We've got a BMI chart up there. So we've got calculators for the TE and the rest of the stuff that you saw. We send out an email weekly to just throw tips and things out there, you know, come holiday time or whatnot, different ways that you can, hacks to make sure that you stay on track and don't get completely derailed. So there's a lot of good stuff up there, and I encourage you to go there. I also put some sign-up sheets over here if you wanted to, you know, do the old-fashioned sign-up for the email. We could do that, or you could just go to the website and sign up for it. He sends out all kinds of stuff on the Facebook pages, so lots of good information there. But if it's okay with you two, we'll open up for questions. Sound all right? Okay, I know I talked fast, sorry. Go ahead.
I know a lot of sugar substitutes are bad for you. What about stevia?
Stevia is natural, it's fine. And I don't consider the sugar substitutes to be bad for you. I have been on a diabetic diet due to a kidney situation since I was 14. I've never been able to go near sugar. So that's the only way I've ever been able to taste anything sweet. Splenda, if you're going for one of them, Splenda is the closest thing to natural that's not considered natural. The stevia, the Truvia product now is actually pretty good. The original stevia was horrible, but not as bad as the saccharin. Oh God, do you remember those days of Tab and Fresca? That was rough.
Will you repeat their question too?
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
What's your opinion on intermittent fasting?
Intermittent fasting, like anything else, as soon as you put yourself into starvation, you know, eventually, yeah, you can lose some weight. But the problem is, with intermittent fasting, is that you reset your BMR, your basic metabolic rate. And once you do that, once your basal is reset, your chances of putting that weight back on are much higher after the fact. So you might lose 20, but 6 weeks later, you're back up 24. So that's the challenge I have with intermittent fasting. It's effective, but it's deceiving because your body will reset itself. It thinks it's going through a famine, right? So it's gonna hang on to everything when you feed it, and it's not gonna let anything go when you don't.
Why did you make it a lifestyle?
That's hard. I mean, healthy is difficult enough. Intermittent fasting is asking a lot of someone. And you're causing those swings. You're causing the sine wave again because you're taking on food, then you drop it down and take it. No, I know what it is. It's painful. It's like I said, you'll lose weight, but once you go off of it, and most people do because they can't sustain it. Once they do, they're going to put that back on plus because of that. Yeah. Yes.
What is your recommendation about breakfast?
Recommendations for breakfast. Breakfast, again, you want to balance your macros. So a small container of Greek yogurt and some berries. You know, that sort of thing, and we've got bunches of recommendations up on the website, but you know, you want to stay within, depending on what your number is. If your number for the day is only 1,600 calories, and you want to have a 600 calorie meal, you got 1,000 calories to spread over 5 nourishments, right? That's 200 each. Okay, so we've got to think much smaller and more frequent. But you always want to take that carbohydrate, balance it with the protein. The closer you can get them in grams, the more healthy it's going to be. So it could be a slice of cheese and a half an apple. The problem is, what do you do with the other half apple? Right, I mean, I'm serious. You know, that's what happens. We either end up eating it or getting angry and throwing it away. The dog won't eat the apple, sorry. Yours does, mine would eat the carrot, but I'm not thinking the apple.
But you could save it for another meal.
Sure you could. You could put it in a little bowl of lemon juice and hang on to it. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm just saying, most people kind of toss that out maybe with the bath water just because they're wasting so much food. But that's where you want to go. And again, you know, when you look at the glycemic index charts, you can see what the serving is, and you can balance them that way. And don't be afraid to throw some nuts in here and there because you need that fat. The Greek yogurt's going to have some unless you buy 0%. You don't need to buy 0%. You can do a 2% or 5%. You just got to have some. Good. Yes.
I do like eating beef yogurt. So is it better to get like 0 fat or 2% fat versus whole milk?
Okay, so she's asking about the yogurt and the fat content. It really depends on what you're putting with it. If you're putting something, just like I said with the proteins, the meats, it depends on how much healthy fat you're putting alongside of it. So if you're doing the yogurt and you're doing something else that has some fat in it, then you're going to want to stay lower. But if you're not, you're just putting it with berries, go 2% or 5% so that you have the fat. Because you do need the fat. And let's face it, it tastes better than that 0% anyway.
Yeah, they can have more sugar when it's not.
That's a good point. You really got to watch your labels because as you watch the carbs, you'll see that the lower the fat content, many times they've added some sort of sugar in there and the carbs go way up. We found that out with our type 1 because, you know, we tried to reduce the fat and some of the things that he was eating and the carb content was just outrageous. But, you know, we were trained to think calories and fat. And so you tend to ignore the carbohydrate level. So keep your eye on that. That's a good point. So, yes.
Question: if I wanted to
a good question. She's asking about lowering, reducing inflammation and what food groups or types are critical there. Glycemic index is important because it adds water weight to your body. When you take on the extra carbs, your body fills your cells with water. And that's where the inflammation comes from and where most of the pain comes from. Now, I've had people tell me that they've never felt better than when they eliminated nightshade plants in their diet. I can't imagine, but whatever, if that's working for you, go for it. If that's what you're feeling, do it. It's not hurting you. I've had other people tell me that they weren't affected by most things, but they can't eat dairy. They found out that dairy really bothers them. And they're not lactose intolerant, it's not that. They just, found out that they felt better off of the dairy. Okay, then stay away from the dairy. Or we've got the whole gluten-free thing going on. I've got a granddaughter that's truly celiac. That's hard to follow. That's not easy. And frankly, the glycemic gluten, too close. The gluten is the protein in that product. So if you're taking the gluten out, you've just removed the protein, which was what was balancing that wheat bread anyway. So unless you're truly allergic to it, gluten is not your enemy. It's really more friend than foe. But again, everybody's different, right? If you have a sensitivity and they're not all measurable to things like gluten, then if you find out that you feel better off of it, then by all means. But I can't zero in and say for every person in this room, eggplant, tomatoes are fine. We're sensitive to all kinds of crazy. This is because I'm sensitive to everything out there right now. And the more windy it gets, the more allergic I get. So who knows? Some of you it's not bothering me. It's beating up badly. Yes?
How long does it take for your body to forget about craving for sweets? My blood sugar is about 129, and I just have 3 drinks every night. And I heard that somewhere, I heard this, that if you crave salt, if you stay away from it for 2 weeks, you forget about the taste and you don't crave it any longer.
I have a hard time believing that. Salt is an element that is really required by your body unless you have a kidney or a liver problem that prevents you from being able to process it. And as far as sweets go, you might find that if you can get that sine wave under control, the sweet craving will start to go away because part of it is because your blood sugar's dropped. So if you're telling me that, did everyone hear his question? I'm sorry, I keep forgetting to repeat the questions. If your blood sugar is at 129, that's in the morning fasting?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a little bit high. So you've got some sine wave going on. That right there is telling me that you're above average on fasting morning blood sugar. So that sine wave is most likely what's causing your cravings for sweets because your blood sugar is dropping down and you're postprandial, which after dinner, right? And so, as your blood sugar starts to rise again, you're looking for the dessert. Yeah.
Should it be at 100 though?
Your fasting blood sugar, breakfast, morning time should be below 100. It should be below 100. We don't want it really below 80, but most type 2s don't have too much trouble with drops in blood sugar. I mean, sure, everybody's got the sine wave going on, but I mean to the point where they're going to need a rescue, glucose treatment. And a rescue glucose treatment is only 15 grams of carbohydrate, which isn't very much. Most people, if they're on insulin or they have issues with their blood sugar being low, overestimate. Again, they dive right into the orange juice, and 10 ounces later, and 35 minutes are at 400. So don't overdo it. But yeah, below 100 would be an appropriate morning. Yeah. So a little bit high. It's not bad, but it's watchable. It tells me you're on the sine wave train for sure. But
Thank you.
you're on it. Yeah.
Any natural supplements you recommend?
You know what? I would have to stand at a pharmacy counter and stare at all the shelves to help you with that.
For the carbs and the...
No, natural supplements, no, I'm sorry, but There hasn't been an herbal product produced yet, in spite of whatever they may make for claims that will help with that. It's really more your macro intake than anything else, and there's really nothing that you can do to fix it. And eventually, you know, they end up putting you on metformin or something like that, and that addresses it. And you know, partly because it's made you so sick you can't eat, but you know, besides that, yeah. Anybody else have a question?
So you're not a fan of metformin?
Well, I would rather you stay away from it. I mean, I'd rather keep you away from it, right? I got out of the pill business, so you know, it's hard. Metformin wrecks your stomach. It gives you terrible diarrhea. And, you know, I mean, it's a hard drug to take, and it's our go-to because it's cheap, and it more or less does the job without terribly many side effects. I mean, it doesn't destroy your liver or something like that, but I'd rather keep you away from it. I mean, I don't want to fix it, but unfortunately, if you go to the doctor and your BMI's coming in over 30, and you got an A1C of, you know, 8 or 9, you're going to metformin. I mean, and there's a whole bunch of injectables now, and even pills that you can take. There was a cascade of them that started 15 years ago or so, and they tell you that you'll lose weight, it'll get your A1C down, all different kinds of claims. I think you can hear the commercial playing in the background right now. But the problem is, yeah, you'll lose 12, some people lose 15 pounds. It doesn't go any further than that. So the 12 pounds really isn't enough. It gives you the hope, but it's not enough. So those people that think that they're gonna get to a really good weight, normal body weight on Ozempic, are fooling themselves. They still have to pair that up with a healthy lifestyle. They still have to get control of their fork. They still have to get up and move around and get some exercise. So there's no medical fix. The fix is fix it. Fix what's broken so that you don't have to bring in the cavalry chemically to try and make it happen, because it doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be that way. But yeah.
What's the latest thinking about drinking alcohol?
Alcohol's a carb. So, you know, I have plenty of people that say, gee, I can't follow your regimen because, you know, I like my glass of wine, which really means they like their 3 glasses of wine. But, you know, that's fine, it's your lifestyle. That's up to you. I'm a coach. I'm not your judge, just your coach. But I'm just saying, if you think that you're gonna dodge that carbohydrate, you aren't. So, you know, in a type 1, it's a negative carb. It'll drop them like a rock. So the type 1s really have a problem going near alcohol at all because of that. But if you think about what that does to a type 1, now take it and look at what it's gonna do to anyone who isn't. So it's tricky. Once you start mixing alcohol in, it's, for me, if I'm coaching a client, I'll tell them, please, for the love of God and everything holy, just give me a couple of weeks. Don't exercise and don't drink. We can fix most everything, but you gotta know where you are on the crazy train. You gotta know what you can tolerate and what you can't. Now, most people, if I can get them good on track with a program, you know, 6 nourishings a day, and they're drinking all their water, and they're getting enough sleep, I can generally say to them, okay, let's see what a glass of wine does. Let's see what's your weight tomorrow. If your weight's up 2 pounds, that's inflammation. You don't gain 2 pounds overnight. 2 pounds is 7,000 calories. That's a real closet eater. I mean, you just can't do that. So if you're putting weight on that quickly, or dropping weight that quickly, it's inflammation. Inflammation, you're either losing or gaining. So you gotta, you know, just be mindful of that. I would say remove it from the formula for a minute, and then when you reintroduce, like everything else, if you eliminate dairy for a little while because of the fat content, you reintroduce it, how do you feel? You know, when we reintroduce food items that we've removed because of their glycemic index or their fat content or for whatever reason, we reintroduce them like a toddler with first foods. You know, you don't start them on strawberries and see how that goes. You start with things that you know they're not going to be allergic to, if you will, sensitive to. So when we bring it back in, then you know what it's going to do to you. Then you make up your mind. Am I willing to make that sacrifice? You know, do I understand that if I have ice cream at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to be asleep in my chair at 4:30? Am I all right with that? Am I willing to give up the rest of my afternoon? If you're not, then you don't eat the ice cream, right? Those are choices that we make. It challenge yourself and choose. Do you want to feel like that, or do you not want to feel like that? You know, if I exercised the day before and I had a great workout and I'm up 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds the next day, that's inflammation. But that's not something I feel badly about. That's a good thing because I know it's just water and it will work itself out. But if you've indulged in something that you shouldn't and you're up 2 pounds the next day, that's something you gotta think, is this the path I really want to be on? But those are choices. But once you realize how you feel without it, it gives you the opportunity to make that choice. Because most people don't understand that the reason that they're so low-key, the reason that they're taking afternoon naps, the reason they've got fog, isn't because they didn't take Prevagen. It's because a bad choice that they made, either the day before, or the meal before, or the morning of, or what have you. So once you remove them, then you know what it's going to do. So that would be my recommendation. Take it out of the equation for a minute, and then when you reintroduce, if you reintroduce, you'll know how you feel. Did I put you all asleep? Is this afternoon nap time?
Can you explain a little bit about inflammation? Because from what you just said, it seems like inflammation, you can get inflammation from eating food and also exercising.
When you exercise, you put a tax on your body, on your muscles. You ask it to work harder. And when you ask it to work harder, there's going to be an amount of inflammation because of the response, the physical response, lactic acid, and then blah, 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 blah. So yes, there's going to be some inflammation but it's in a good way, right? It's the sore muscles because, you did so many squat thrusts. That's not a bad thing. It's a good thing you did all the squat thrusts, but you're going to feel it. And what you feel the next day is the swollen muscles. So that's, in that sense, it falls into the category of inflammation. But not inflammation in the sense that you just put on 2 pounds of water weight. And the water weight comes in, and I can tell you, when I get somebody that's really done a really great job, and they've gone through a whole bunch of weight loss, and they've been in fat burn for weeks and weeks and weeks, and we reintroduce carbs, like complex carbs, like bread or things like that, that maybe they walked away from for a while. We reintroduce it, they're going up 3 pounds. They're going up 3 pounds. So, we're gonna bring them not only to their goal weight, we're gonna go 3 to 5 below it to accommodate for the water that's gonna go back into their cells as a result of glycolysis. All right? Sorry. Okay. Anybody else? Okay, I guess I'm turning it back to Ashley then. I appreciate all of you. I didn't see too many closed eyes, so thank you for that. On Facebook, just find us. Love to help anybody that we can. My business cards are over there if you'd like to contact me. And Ash, giving it back to you.
Thank you.